Oh, those poor, non-existent, made-up children. Since Multiverse of Madness was released, I've heard way too many arguments like this regarding the psychopath that is Wanda Maximoff, aka Scarlet Witch.
She
So I
is,
felt compelled to return to the topic of the selfish, narcissistic moron that is Wanda. A character bereft of any rationality or morality, but sold to us as some sort of tragic anti-hero. A character who's written as a stand-in for people experiencing loss and grief, a subject used to hand-wave for lack of any moral compass, logic, or consistency of personality. The morality that the MCU is trying to push with this character is honestly disgusting.
This video and his two The Batman videos are the closest he gets on his channel to being that of a video essayist, because he actually has an intelligent thesis. His thesis in this one being that Wanda is a terrible person, and that reflects poorly on Marvel. I do have to disagree with that last statement, though, as the creators and writers of the show are not on Wanda's side. They point out
How do you know that?
It reflects badly on humanity because fucking the fan base and Marvel is on Wanda's side. You fucking ape! What's wrong with this guy? Why is everything he says wrong? Like, it's just...
And also, just from the history of the comics, the Scarlet Witch is not a good guy. Okay, the Scarlet Witch. Sometimes she's on the Avengers. She's also in the evil Brotherhood of Mutants. Okay, like she varies. So that's fine. It's the other idiots watching them going, oh, well, I guess this is the right thing to do. No, it doesn't have to be the right thing to do, because she's not inherently a hero. So it's the people pushing this poor morality out going, well, this is what a hero does. No, she's not a hero. She's never been a hero.
They never
it's deeper than that, though, isn't it?
It's crazy.
It's, sorry, mate. It's deeper than this, isn't it? The actual whole content of Marvel at that moment in time was pushing the agenda about women. So it's deeper. It's much deeper. And when you said it, it was the morale and it's just, evil. Well, you didn't say that, but I'm saying it. It's true, because that's what Marvel was pushing in their shows and consistently pushing it in their shows for a long time. So I don't know why he doesn't see that. But then again, I think he's just a big fan of Marvel and he doesn't like people criticizing what he enjoys, basically.
I think he's a big fan of me secretly.
This is all a clever bit to get your attention, and he has succeeded.
This is flirting for him. There you go.
There are a couple of specific scenes with Wanda there, aren't there? So on the question of whether the writers are on her side, in WandaVision, you have the writers gave that line to Monica Rambeau. No one will ever know what you sacrificed for them. And then you have the other one in Multiverse of Madness when Wanda says, well, I enslaved and tortured people, and you saved the universe, and people treat us differently, and that doesn't seem fair. And then Doctor Strange's response is kind of similar in the sense that he accepts the premise, no, it isn't fair. However, you still have to stop. That's not the writers not being on her side. In fact, the first instance is definitely the writers being on her side. They want to portray her as a tragic anti-hero, but the tragic part suggests that there's a degree of sympathy with the situation she was placed in.
Yeah, and it goes so much worse than that in the fact that, like, Doctor Strange's whole job is to look over supernatural events on Earth, and they didn't want him in WandaVision because they didn't want the white guy to come and take over the show at the end. That's literally a quote from Kevin Feige. You can look it up. That's literally what it is. They did not want the white guy to come and take over her show and it to be all about her. Yet they literally have her take over his movie and make it like Doctor Strange 2 is not a sequel to Doctor Strange 1. It's a sequel to WandaVision. And at the end of WandaVision, they show her save the cops that were falling down. So they show that she's not batshit crazy at that point. And she also has the walk of shame with all the people in the town that are looking at her, from all the people that she was torturing. And then it leads to the fucking line, the Platoon reference. And it's like, okay, what are you trying to tell us here? Like, is she guilty, or is she feel shame for this? Like, and then they skip any possible answers you can possibly get by just jumping into the multiverse of madness. And she's suddenly batshit crazy. Doesn't care about her parents, doesn't care about Pietro, doesn't care about Vision. It's all just lost. Like, it's one of the worst character assassinations you can ever see, and they don't address any of these things. It's crazy. They skip over so much with Wanda. It's almost fascinating.
wrong the stuff she is doing is, and therefore it doesn't reflect a moral failing on the writer's part.
Many of these points will be objective, so if we disagree, it'll be because we disagree on what we consider rational and immoral behavior.
But if we disagree, I will do a video essay about you.
Right.
Jeez.
Thesis of your video being that the Scarlet Witch is a bad person and this reflects poorly on Marvel, then that is something you can totally disagree with while having a moral compass stay in check.
Wanda
She tortured
Maximoff
kids, you
jumped the
idiot.
shark starting with the WandaVision Disney Plus show, where she took an entire town of people hostage and controlled their minds and every action because she was grieving over her fallen lover, Vision. She knowingly tortured these people to hang on to her make-believe children, husband, and brother. And yeah, that's an objective fact. That's what she did. And someone's grief is not a qualifier for doing this.
But no, you
Here's a
see, because
moment
she
where-
sacrificed so much for them that makes this all okay. Just
No. Grief erases context to these people. It's just insane.
Yeah,
it is, and it's always funny to go back to as well, because I think I only watched WandaVision through the first time and the only time once, and I think the same is true of Multiverse of Madness, but it is always slightly shocking to go back or like to see anybody reference these scenes again and to remember that, yeah, this is what they had to do. This is actually a thing. She enslaved an entire town of people because she was sad that her sex toy broke. And then when she was criticized for doing this, no, that's not her being like the writers taking her side. She did sacrifice loads for them, and they just were too dumb and silly to recognize how good she is. And so now, of course, she's a villain because the world was unfair to her. That is actually the line that Marvel writers took for the best part of 2 years.
Yeah.
The whole show
don't know
was
how they
about
escaped that.
empowering women. That's what it was. I mean, even when, what's her name? I can't remember, the black woman. How she got her power? She walked through the wall, and suddenly she's powerful.
for nothing.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Nobody earns their powers anymore. They just get
It's
handed
ridiculous.
them.
Yeah, it didn't even look like it hurt.
And
And then
they
you
had the
don't
line
see her
from
again until you get to
The
the
movie, yeah.
Marvels when
The
she's
Marvels.
all of a sudden one of the main
Black Girl
characters in that
power.
movie. What
And
the
people are
terrific
supposed to
origin
know her.
story she has. How did she get through? How did she get the powers? She got like electrocuted with witch magic or something. I don't know. Fuck it. We don't need an origin story.
That would be
They-
like at the
they had,
end of or the beginning of The Empire Strikes Back, the Emperor getting all pissed off and go, they blew up the Death Star. Do you know how hard it was for us to build that damn thing? You know how many people had to work to build this planet
The
destroying?
economy we created.
Anakin just wanted to bring peace, order, and security to his new empire, and now look what
Yeah.
you've done. You've created a revolution, and everyone's dying.
You gone and ruined it.
No, I was
You
just,
know
I was gonna
what,
say
right?
they had that line from Vision saying, Wanda, where are all the kids in Westview? Like he passes by the school park every day and he doesn't see any kids. And they had the lady basically saying, Wanda, like my kids, like, can they play with your kids? Can they be a part of your story? Like pretty much anything to get them out of their room. She had all the children trapped in their room.
Yes,
Like it's like the worst torture you could have possibly imagined.
Yeah.
People skip over that part in addition to the townspeople. It's the whole thing is just backwards, man. It's a test of morality, really. Like,
Mm.
I don't know.
I'm really
he
glad I
doesn't
didn't
get it.
watch this show now. My goodness.
Oh, it's
The worst part about it, the worst part about it is it didn't start bad. The first beginning of WandaVision is one of the best things Marvel ever did because you thought it had potential.
and then it
until
rug
it
pulls
didn't.
you.
Yeah, like in a way you'd never see coming.
Yeah,
I
it's
got
actually
the
pretty
impression-
creative. It's an interesting new premise for a type of Marvel show, and it's like it's not the beginning of WandaVision is not generic Marvel slop, and that's about as high praise as you can give to it. They could have taken that in a number of very interesting directions. Don't think we ever anticipated they take it in the direction that they did, and they still managed to end it with a really generic Marvel slop ending fight of just flying through the air, shooting lasers at each other.
Lasers and nonsense.
All the promise you had at the beginning, and you just
I know.
squandered it.
I get the
There's
impression.
actual creepy moments at the beginning of WandaVision, and to end with just laser slop, it's incredible.
I get the impression that they had a really good script, and somewhere down the line they decided to change it because, again, it was kind of the start of the agenda kind of thing, and they wanted the women to be powerful. I think in the original script it was either Doctor Strange that comes and does something, or it was Vision, the real Vision, or something like that, something to do with Vision at the end that helped her at the ending. But they kind of chucked that out, didn't they? Apparently, I heard that they actually shot something with Doctor Strange, and then they just took it out. So I don't know what's the truth, but
That
it's
quote's
obvious.
out there. The quote from Feige is out there, and it's just shocking. And
Yeah,
with Vision, it's almost more frustrating what happened with him, because the most interesting part of the show was Vision slowly realizing something is off here, and it has to do with Wanda. And like, Wanda, what do you do? Like, stop! Like, some of the best acting he's ever done. Like, Wanda, stop lying to me. And then they turn his brain off, and he's on some stupid side quest with Darcy doing a bunch of nonsense. It's like he just completely forgets. It's insane. They cut off all the interesting threads for the show and ruined pretty much every character in it.
And what they did was they basically pushed that narrative into the Doctor Strange movie.
Yes.
Again, with the kids and stuff like that, they pushed it, and they're trying to convince us that what she's done is right in the town. It's like, no, it doesn't matter what you do; it's still evil, you know. So anyway,
they had Doctor Strange say, "Oh, but you put it back together at the end. And that's all that matters." Like when he's referring to the town, everything she did to Westview, they just brush it under the rug.
She had to save the day in that film, not Doctor Strange.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic. That's all I can say.
So we can see it coming.
I'd actually forgotten the whole "put it back together" line. Yeah,
it's the first thing.
The writers definitely aren't taking her side, though. Absolutely, that's not what's happening.
No, she had a moment to basically say, like, I did wrong, I did bad things, blah 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 blah. And then he says, "Nah, that's fine." Like, that's pretty much what he says. Like, it should be literally his job to put a stop to what she did. She tortured a town full of people. Anyone else, Strange would have had a bunch of portals up her ass. But Wanda is untouchable. It's I hope people learn from this in the future, man. This is what they did to this character.
Well, this guy didn't learn anything.
It's just a fan. It's just like I just get the impression that he's a really big fan of Marvel. He will not hear any criticism about what they've done. That's the impression I get. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
We have more of his commentary to find out. So
more?
A little more. Just a little bit.
Disagree while keeping a moral compass in check. You see, I do agree that doing this is horrible and grief is not a valid excuse for it. However, the show isn't framing that as an excuse, it's framing it as a reason. It's her reason, her motivation for doing so.
Aren't those kind of synonymous with each other?
Not quite, because you can explain why something is happening in order, but the explanation and justification being two different things, I think, is the angle he's trying to go with there. So, like, his interpretation of WandaVision is that it's explaining why Wanda is doing the bad things that she's doing, but the explanation itself doesn't mean that they're on her side or that she was in any way right and justified to do what she's doing. The inconvenient thing for this guy is that the show does say that she was kind of justified in doing what she was doing, and people make apologies for her after the fact. So.
Yeah,
the explanation is not an excuse, man. Like, you just we all know why she did. We watched the fucking show, but it doesn't justify all the terrible things she did. You have to actually address those things.
According to that woman at the ending, we'll never know the sacrifice that she made to, all that, right? She said at the end of the show, didn't she?
Doesn't she say something else stupid like, "I'm not the one holding the gun"? And it was like, no.
Like, you're torturing you're holding an entire town hostage. Yeah. And she says, "I'm not the one with the guns.
I'm not the one with the guns."
My God.
Like, whatever the fuck.
It's the moment her character was like, there's no going back from here. You're done. Like, you just stick a fork in it.
Which is fine if you recognize that this character isn't a good character. This isn't a heroic thing to do. If you can write that and you can make it inherently interesting, they chose not to do that.
Penguin, Waltz, we love it when we be realistic. We know what we're watching, and you can tell that moment of when you're on board with them and when that moment where they cross the line. But as long as the show, actually addresses the content and doesn't skip over it and have dumbass fucking Afro chick say the stupid line that she said, like, I don't know why the hell they can't see the fuck up with this character, but yeah,
that's because they got bad writers. They hired bad writers. So.
Yes, they do.
So there you go. At that moment in time, I don't know what they're doing.
Don't they also say too? It was like, well, we don't want people who read the source material, and it was like, oh, okay.
That's still around that time. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's why we got this shit anyway.
It's like it shows.
Justifies doing something like that.
Don't you know how grief-stricken she is, sir? Have you considered her pain?
There's no argument to make to justify this.
Here's another thing that video essayists don't do, and that's insult their audience. Because
what
are you talking about? Just this morning, I was roasting somebody. What the fuck you talking about? Rip somebody before work, before bed. Like, what are you talking about?
I could have based on the definition of essay he's provided and the structure for an essay he's laid out, I could be writing an essay in which my opening thesis is, for example, everyone who unironically enjoys Godzilla X Kong is retarded. Here is my several paragraphs of justification. Here is my counter-argument and my conclusion. That's an essay. Just insulting people does not make it not an essay. You can argue that you shouldn't do it if your goal is to convince people who very much disagree with you. But the mistake a lot of these people make when they say, oh, why are you insulting your audience, is to say that they are your audience. And in many cases, they're not. You kind of get to choose who your audience is. If I wanted to create a very, persuasive argument for disliking something this guy likes, I might not lead off by saying, I think you're really, really stupid for enjoying it. But if that's not my stated aim with the essay, I have no obligation to do it that way. I'm not supposed to be polite to you just because you think I should.
I think chat was right. He was offended by it, so therefore, it was a self-report. He was insulted by it, therefore everyone was insulted by it.
If it makes them feel a certain way, it doesn't really matter what you said. Facts.
Yeah. Marvel Studios insults their audience all the time.
Exactly.
The people that they're shilling for go like, I don't care what 40-year-old white men think about this. And I was like, oh really? Because those are the people going to see your movie.
It's like it's like 65% of your fucking audience.
Yeah,
that's such a good point. It's crazy. They the lack of self-awareness in this video, just 7 minutes in, is just shocking. Yeah.
Well, we have a deadline to meet, so I don't even know if we'll finish this. Honestly, we'll get 10 minutes into it.
We'll get some streaks.
Yeah.
You seem vindictive. Additionally, this is a straw man argument, as no one is saying that this justifies what she's doing. They're saying that's her reasoning.
It wasn't at the end.
So
they literally have a line.
Know what she was doing. She did.
She's there.
This will be your only warning.
Wait,
that's insult.
I just had to rewind it because I forgot. In that video, I show you lines where they're justifying it, where the writers are justifying it. It's the lines we already
back
discussed.
Up what you were saying instead of
you'll
showing
never know what you
vigilante.
sacrificed for them.
Exactly.
Doesn't get more explicit than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're framing and painting this character in the way you want the writer, want the audience to accept it.
And I don't want to keep making you pause, but just one really important point I think is Wanda has always been willing to be accountable for her actions. Like after the airport fight, she went to the raft. Like she felt guilty for what happened with Ultron, and she helped the Avengers. Like she's always been willing to do the right thing. But in WandaVision, she just fucks off and flies away instead of going to the cops. The cops were literally on the way, and then she just flies away. It's the first time you see her not take accountability. And I really think that says something a lot about what they did to her character. When there's, so many examples we've seen before, they ruined her. And he won't address these things because he likes the character. It's just these type of reviewers.
She's not going to date you, bro.
Yeah, big simping.
I know she's hot.
Big simping, baby.
Their audience, because that automatically makes you seem vindictive. Additionally, this is a straw man argument, as no one is saying that this justifies what she's doing. They're saying that's her reasoning for doing so.
You can't argue that she didn't know what she was doing. She did.
This will be your only warning. Stay out of my home.
That clip does not prove your point. If anything, it proves that she actually doesn't know what she's doing. So
how?
Why didn't he use the one about the guns?
I think I do.
How?
No. I'm saying why didn't he put that in his video? Like he doesn't address that. Was that the clip that you added, or is it a clip that he added? The one.
Oh no, that was my clip in here. Yeah.
She's telling the army to stay away from her home, the home that she's enslaved. And,
I know.
Right. She knows what she's done.
The town. Yeah. So I don't know.
Like I understand that the Darkhold is, responsible for it or whatever, but
that's in the multiverse of madness. That's not even in this movie.
No, well, yeah.
Well,
at the end, it's that. Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. This is literally just Wanda being a dumbass.
I
like
forgot about that.
This is all her.
I wrote this like 3 fucking years ago. I completely forgot about it.
I just finished my MCU video, so all this is so fresh in my head. Like Wanda is like up there with Daenerys Targaryen for one of the most ruined characters I've ever seen.
Damn.
She's obliterated. Wow.
Yeah.
She gets the Darkhold right at the end of WandaVision, doesn't she? And then, like the main influence it has is in Multiverse of Madness. Agatha has it before then, if I remember correctly.
He rejects it in WandaVision, and then suddenly has it in Multiverse of Madness.
Which makes it worse. Like, I think this guy actually does go on to argue that it's the Darkhold that's basically responsible for all this. No, it isn't. She's doing all of this before she's under the influence of the evil bug. This is entirely Wanda doing Wanda things.
Yep.
Well, congratulations, you've successfully disproved yourself.
What we have is Wanda keeping an entire town under control and her hex threatening the entire world because she has the SAD. The fact that Marvel tries to spin this to get sympathy from us is gross.
Yet another time where he insults the creators. You see, you can't say this because it gives the impression that giving people sympathizable villains is something that is a moral failing, which is just not true. Having villains that we can't sympathize.
So that's one of those situations where context is entirely the king. It depends on the villain you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you wanted to try and make like Hitler seem sympathetic, that is a moral failing on your part as a creator, because some villains are not sympathizable.
Cruella de Vil.
Cruella, no, because she's sympathetic because like Dalmatians murdered her parents or whatever.
Exactly. It's not. It's like there's some characters you just don't do this with. Where like we all love sympathetic villains where we can understand like their point of view, but still follow through with their actions.
Yeah,
this isn't it, man. This isn't it. Wanda should be, if she has all these powers, why isn't she bringing back Pietro or her parents or any of the other things? No, it's just these stupid little kids that don't exist. It doesn't make any sense, man.
Like, you could have made Wanda a sympathetic villain. They tried to make her a sympathetic villain, hence the lines that we've referenced a couple of times already about, not being her fault and everything being unfair on her and her putting it back together. So it's technically she did the right thing in the end. Like, these are attempts to make her sympathetic, but that is because the writers don't seem to have understood exactly how bad she's been. And therefore they think they can make her sympathetic in that way. So it's a failure on the part of the writers, which makes it absolutely fine to criticize them and to call them stupid, even if it does sound mean to say that.
The best thing they did, just real quickly, the best thing they did in the entire show to make her sympathetic was when the cops are fighting at the end and one fell, Wanda saved their lives. And that's what she would do in that situation. That's Wanda being Wanda. But we never get to see anything like that ever again. Everything else is just either these forced lines or her being insane in the Multiverse of Madness. But like that was the last moment where they actually like understood, her character.
So I just have a question about WandaVision. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, should I play this a little faster? Chat suggested it. And
yes,
he really does.
He talked very slow.
Yeah.
For this guy, it might just work because
1.5 speed.
Yeah, we can see how 1.5 works.
But since you speak like a human, your parts might be like weird if it's sped up. Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
But I'd say give it a try.
We can give it a shot. All right.
With make very boring villains. Has everyone forgotten Thanos? Come on.
He actually sounds better.
He sounds way better.
Way better than normal human being.
Significantly better. Oh, you're probably
going to sound like his blood sugar just spiked.
He doesn't sound like a Valley girl anymore.
Oh, I'm going to sound awful here.
Sympathizable. Like that probably actually sounded like reasonable if you put the speed up. But
I do it and I become the enemy. That doesn't seem fair.
This is a great line delivered by a great actress, but when I first heard it in the trailers, it came off extremely forced considering what she did in WandaVision. This was before we knew she'd be the villain of the movie, and after seeing how it unfolded, the line comes off even worse now. It's supposed to expose hypocrisy, but it's really just idiotic bullshit some writer made to make himself feel clever.
Yeah, I thought it, then I said it, I'm on it!
At one point, she even tells Strange that her trying to kill an innocent child in order to satisfy her own personal desires is equivalent to Strange giving Thanos Thanos the Mind Stone. So, you know, he's a hypocrite. What
Yeah.
the fuck? How is Strange giving up the stone as the only means of defeating Thanos, equivalent to you wanting to kill a kid to go be with your made-up kids? Strange fucking sacrificed his life and was gone for 5 years in order to save the world. Doesn't strike me as the same thing, but what do I know?
What do you know, indeed?
Were you listening? Did you even listen? That was bulletproof. You weren't listening. That's it. He just either he wasn't listening or he just wants to hate on you. Everything you just said there is bulletproof. This guy is like a Neanderthal. That's the only thing conclusion I can come to. Like, that's not fair at all to like not even engage with any of the arguments that you just provided.
Well, I accidentally called the time stone the Mind Stone. So
so okay. So you know what? Scratch all that. Screw that. You don't know what you're talking about then. Screw
God damn it.
Delete it all.
Chat got me. Damn.
We know which stone you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
It's just
no, I think it is the time stone, isn't it?
No, it's the time stone is the one that he gave up to save Tony's life and to ultimately
you're right.
Yeah.
The Mind Stone
Which
was
is
the one Vision had.
Yeah, and which is like that is the most reasonable, and she wants to do this so she can like play The Sims. It's not like even the same thing in any way, shape, or form. It's not fair to even like what's frustrating me is that like I really liked the delivery of all that, and I think it's bulletproof, and it's just not fair to even engage with your argument in any way. Like that's not cool at all. Come on, you should be his audience deserves better than this. Like that's just worthless.
Logic.
This point doesn't really work as well as he thought it would. For one, Wanda doesn't have any obligation to be right at the moment. She doesn't need to be reasonable right now because she's clearly in a deluded state of mind. Two, while the movie does agree with Wanda, it does so in a way that doesn't really reflect on it being a decision that saved millions. It reflects on the fact that Doctor Strange thought that he could make that choice, that he was important enough to make that choice, which he obviously isn't important enough to make a choice about something that would affect many, many people.
No MCU hero's choices.
I'm slightly confused because he didn't word that at all well. Is the argument
that was butchered?
The argument is that Doctor Strange was not shouldn't have been able to do what he did because he shouldn't have been responsible for the fates of millions of people.
Affects so many, but even though he watched every single scenario and there was like millions of scenarios where they lose, and him giving up the stone was the only scenario where they might come out on top.
Yeah,
but
stupid. Like, just go get more Pym particles. Like, that's
was there one
the whole movie.
Was there one? There was one thing that would make them win, wasn't it?
It was like one out of like 99 million. It was this insane, insurmountable number.
Yeah,
nonsense.
But
and the comparison with what Wanda did is what? So, and Wanda didn't have to be responsible because she was deluded.
I think we have to hear it again. He butchered that whole sentence.
Isn't he now?
Let me play it at regular speed then.
Sorry.
I think so.
He's saying drunk drivers shouldn't go to jail. Is pretty much is what he's.
Yeah, we can play his argument over again at regular speed.
Okay.
Doesn't strike me as the same thing, but what do I know?
What do you know, indeed? Well, let's talk about why this point doesn't really work as well as he thought it would. For one, Wanda doesn't have any obligation to be right at the moment. She doesn't need to be reasonable right now because she's clearly in a deluded state of mind. Two, while the movie does agree with Wanda, it does so in a way that doesn't
he said it
reflect
doesn't.
on.
I thought he said it doesn't agree with it. This guy's flip-flopping all over the place. He said that this movie doesn't agree with her. Now he's saying that it does. This is how you know he's just strictly bad faith. Like, he doesn't even know what he's talking about, man.
I do also quite like the idea that if you're deluded, you don't have any responsibility to be right.
Do we even need to comment on that?
Oh my god.
It's just even right up.
On it being a decision that saved millions, it reflects on the fact that Doctor Strange thought that he could make that choice, that he was important enough to make that choice, which he obviously isn't important enough to make a choice about something that would affect many, many people.
No MCU.
He made the choice and he gave the stone to Thanos. What are you talking about?
And they won.
The choice. And
by the way, he's the sorcerer supreme. He is the end all say all on magical activity. Like he is in charge of that. So yes, it's very much his choice to make because they put him in charge of the time stone.
Isn't that literally his job description?
Yes,
it is. It's his
Yep.
job is to stop like magical threats to the fabric of the universe.
Look over any supernatural events, not even just threats, just supernatural events.
That is like what he was saying. Like it's not her fault she's deluded. That would be like a cop arresting someone for drunk driving and then go, he had no right to make that decision. That's not your choice to make. It was like, yes, it's literally 100% his choice to make.
Or like someone in the fire brigade has said that if I can't lift the guy up, then it was his fault for being there in the first place.
Oh yeah. There's a million examples you could use to just crush that whole point. That's why it's like Platoon said at the beginning, just redraft, man. Redraft. Like take a look at your script before you put this out to the world because it's so broken and like you're contradicting yourself all over the place. Like it's not good video, dude.
Affect many people.
No MCU hero's choices are comparable to Wanda's. When the heroes in this universe have messed up, it's happened out of their selfless intent, out of their desire to help others. Strange and Spider-Man used the spell to try and make people forget that Spidey was Peter Parker, and that was morally wrong. But Spider-Man only came to Strange once he realized that his identity being exposed was hurting his friend, girlfriend, and family. He did it for them, not himself. And Strange cast the spell because he felt bad for Peter and reluctantly decided to help.
For one, Peter Parker almost caused an incursion, so I think that
were you not listening?
We didn't listen to what the fuck I said. Clearly,
no, he didn't.
Damn. What's
like
the point
no shit? He made the wrong choice, but he did it with his heart was in the right place. He didn't know he was going to cause an incursion.
He's almost your point, like for you. In fact, like we're aware of these things, but the question is why did these massive mistakes that you're describing? Why were they made? They were for character reasons, and you can go from Tony to like almost any superhero you could think of. It's usually a character reason, but with Wanda, there isn't one. But you can search for all you want.
He fixes it at the end. He redeems himself and makes the heroic decision, going, you know, like.
And Wanda flies away, like she just leaves.
Yeah, she runs away.
Instead of going to she dips.
There was a massive like difference in
Spider-Man at the end of Spider-Man
travel.
didn't go sucks to suck and then like web sling out of there.
Look at everything Tony did. Tony, a warmonger who became a martyr, like who literally to his last ounce of strength tried to redeem himself in everything he's done wrong. Like it's an amazing part of his character. Like how do you ignore all that and like not see that Wanda's the opposite of that? She's
I mean it's like the best two examples to put side by side because Spider-Man makes a sacrifice to redeem a mistake that he's made, and Wanda sacrifices people and never kind of admits that she ever made a mistake. So one of these things is a redemptive act, and one of them is quite categorically not.
It's true. And Tony Stark actually knew what was going to happen to him before he even did the click.
Yeah.
So, and that was heroic as well. So
makes the hero, man. These choices.
Yeah.
Well, even with Tony too, he knows that and they use his daughter as a good example. He also knows he can't just bring it back to the point of the original snap because there's other people who have been born and have built their life. So he brought everybody back, to his own demise when he could have just brought everything, but he would have lost his daughter. Anyone else who had children in that point of time, they would have been lost. So he does the opposite of what Wanda does again. So it was like to bring up these points and say, well, Wanda did the same thing it's irresponsible.
He's very much for Marvel, isn't he? He's very much for the way Marvel was in those days. Or maybe he just doesn't see it. I guess it's the latter. Yeah, I think it's the latter.
But it's become more than just hating on Cynic at this point. It's like he's revealed a part of himself in this 10 minutes that is pretty gross. Like you can't see these. Like it's very, very simple thing we're talking about. Or this isn't a complex character, and he can't even address any of it whatsoever. He hasn't been honest with what's happened on screen. It's just frustrating to listen to. Where'd Cinna go?
I don't know.
You got control of the play button, bro.
I don't know. Maybe he fainted or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he just couldn't take it anymore.
He couldn't take it.
Correct.
I think Vex still there? She disappeared.
No, she's checking it.
I'm back.
We
I'm
have
back.
a private chat.
No, he's back.
I'm back.
All right.
I was trying to steer the conversation, but then while you were away, I didn't realize I'd hit the mute button on my microphone.
There's just the three of us for a second, man. That's funny.
I am back. All right. Shall we carry on then?
Shall we?
Okay.
Do we have to?
For a little bit. Yeah.
No, more of this guy. He's
Catastrophe he's done far too. Part of Peter Parker's reasoning for doing this act is also because he couldn't get into college. I understand that Ned
That's
and
not true.
his girlfriend were also
not true
part
at
of
all.
it,
Not
but
true.
let's be honest here, it was at least slightly selfish.
yes, make
Meanwhile,
everyone as
Wanda's
negative
mess
as
up
Wanda.
is torturing an entire town of people and eventually murdering people across the multiverse for her own benefit. Yeah, very similar. Even Iron Man and Bruce creating Ultron was out of hope that it would protect the world from outside threats. And let's not forget, Stark only did that after Wanda messed with his mind and manipulated him into doing it. Funny how things come full circle. After realizing this, the "doesn't seem fair" line sounds like the equivalent of punching a stranger on the street and calling the police because they beat your ass.
It's almost like Wanda's character is completely diluted at this point, and the Darkhold has completely destroyed the way that
No, it
she
hasn't.
views reality.
No, it hasn't.
Strange even tells
At that point, at that point, it was in Multiverse of Madness.
Oh,
right?
okay. If we're talking about this scene, yes. But my thing with the Darkhold is the idea that this book would make her completely. What's the point of her character arc whatsoever if it's just erased? Because there's no version of Wanda that wouldn't care about her parents or Pietro.
Right, and how powerful is this Darkhold hold on her anyway? Because by the end of the movie, all she has to do is see another version of herself, and she just makes the decision to stop.
Exactly.
Yeah. Instantly.
Just know that they will be loved. She already knew that. She was watching. Like all of it.
She was watching them be loved
completely.
And then she was gonna kill her. She was gonna kill herself and then join that universe instead. So
right. So it can't. It's not a very powerful device at all. It's
Wanda Maximoff has like the greatest streak I've ever seen of stupid comments in a row in Multiverse of Madness. Like every single thing she says. It's like you have to sit down and like do research to remember why it makes no fucking sense and break it down. Like it's just incredible. Because a lot of times you can just let someone,
she was a horrible person in the TV show just because, but in the second, in her second appearance in the film, she was corrupted by the Darkhold, which she breaks the spell almost immediately by her own fucking will.
She's I'm not a witch. Okay. I don't cast spells. No one taught me magic. That's what she said when she told Agatha to fuck off with the Darkhold. Literally, they cut to Multiverse of Madness, and she's like all in on the Darkhold. She's read every page. The whole world's turning red. It's like, when did this happen? Like, you skipped the whole movie, man. You can't just do this to me.
It makes more sense to actually look at the Darkhold as the tool that an already evil person thinks will enable her evil schemes to come to fruition better. Like the point, if you wanted to have it, and as the Darkhold is corrupting her, and that's the reason she's doing bad shit, you can't have her doing bad shit before she gets the Darkhold. That's just basic good common sense. The fact is that she was already doing evil shit. She still had the same wants. The Darkhold represented an opportunity to get what she wanted from her evil deeds in the first place, so she used it. And there's not a huge delta between what she does after it and what she does before it, because she's basically the same person. They don't really make a big deal of the fact that the Darkhold is making her do nasty shit. She's already doing nasty shit. She's just a nasty person.
They've done a better example of the Darkhold with the symbiote. In the cartoons and any other ones you could think of. That's a that's a better idea of this concept, like corrupting someone with there's some type of force that corrupts a character and makes them do things that are out of character. And like
or the dark side.
It's still in line. Yeah. There's so many different versions of this that they could have copied, but the Darkhold just like, what's the point? You just deleted her character and now I'm stuck with this clown lady. Like it's not.
I love how we were going to subjectively go through this guy's video and it just became another shocking indictment of how bad WandaVision was.
It's so true.
It's so bad that you just can't help but like take an analysis break. Go ahead.
No, it's just it's so true, isn't it? That it's so badly written, and the movie is even badly written as well. And I used to like this character before the TV show. I thought she was a good person. I haven't read the comics, so I don't know what actually happened.
I mean, it's totally fine that she devolves into a villain. Just frame her that way, for fuck's sake. Because that's what she is.
Well, women can't be bad on Marvel films, can they? Or
no, they can't. They always have to have some sort of
like
excuse.
hung up on this. Why don't we like fast forward to when he starts to rip on something that you thought was good?
Yeah,
I'm just looking forward to like another several months of this kind of content.
I'm down. I was like,
what have we got?
I'll marathon
Captain Falcon 2 or whatever it is coming out in February.
Yeah.
And exactly the same thing will happen again, because that means people will have to start going back to revisit The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is another show which has a very skewed sense of what morality is and should be. And that will almost certainly have an important part to play in analysis of that movie too. It's like these TV shows which were created around the same time, which all were written by people whose moral compass is skewed to fuck, are now going to come back and start biting even more mainline Marvel movies, because that's the bed they've made.
He's gonna come back and go, "You got to do better, movie cynic."
Freckle Jesus. Jeez.
Oh God, yeah, her again.
I watched one episode of that and I just couldn't take it, man. I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back for when the movie comes out, but man, I'm not looking forward to it.
It's a very bad show.
Very, very bad show.